My name is Cynthia DoubleBer. My last name is clearly French. It's French, but of course I'm Haitian, so derivative of French folk. But I would say my first spiritual encounter, I would probably say high school. It was definitely high school. Like I had like a teacher who was just like, it was just something about her. Like she was just always really like different, like she used to have like crystals on her table and such, like her teacher table. And I've always read about, stuff at that time, but I never really exactly like pinpointed to it. But actually, let me go way back, way back. I think I was telling you before, my mother, she was the one that really inclined me to go about my spiritual journey. And it was a moment where she was with my father. My father was Baptist, Catholic, Christian. To him, honestly, as long as he was going to church, to be honest with you, it was just, he'll go, And my parents being Caribbeans, even though to me, I realized a lot of Caribbeans, they call themselves Christian or they call themselves whatever, but they find themselves going back to spiritual roots if they need money or if they need some type of like help of any sort of way, shape, or form, and they go to a spirit home to get somebody to cleanse them off of whatever they need or whatever like that. But my mother, like when she came to the U.S., she's always had that sort of background, but when she married my father, she began to become more conservative about what she wanted to do and what she wanted to be. But I remember when I was like in middle school, she started to she stopped going to church with my dad, and here and there she would go, but then she stopped going. But then she would go to these like parties, and it's like these parties that all these other priestess would have, or aspiring priestess, or just people who just want to be around that vibe, and they're just having rituals on different birthdays for spirits and such like that. And she would go or whatever. And then one day, like, she kind of just was teaching all three of my sisters. Like, I have an older sister, a second sister, and I'm the last one. And she would just teach us like certain things that you can do to cleanse yourself and such like that. And one day she has, like, Haitians, they normally have like an altar in Haiti, and then they also have an altar in the United States if they live in the United States. So both altars are in a sense connected. So she would set up her altar, and she would have a whole room of different statues, different like scarves, and she'll have like canes and machetes everywhere, like, and like, she'll be in this room for like maybe an hour, 2 hours praying, maybe on a Sunday. You know how your parents on a Sunday, they got church music going.
Oh yeah.
And they cleaning the house. Yeah, for her, she would like have, it's called a gaga, or it's called like Racine music, and she'll play this kind of music, and she'll be like so loud and singing and stuff like that. And that's when I noticed, like, there was a time where I noticed like where she really looked free. Like, she looked like nothing could like touch her, nothing could make her feel like she's wrong about following this path. And then from there on, she started to develop real friends, and she started to be around people that really like supported her. And then middle school, I always noticed it, but it was just like, maybe it wasn't my time when I was younger. I always noticed it, but it wasn't something that I really tried to tap into until like high school. And she was a Haitian teacher, this teacher, when she used to have all this stuff on her desk. And she would I was like her teacher's pet. Like, she would always like tell me like, do you know what this stuff is and stuff like that. I guess because she knew that I was Haitian just as much as she was Haitian. Like, you meet Haitians, but not real Haitians. Like, the last name is clear, not like a Jean Baptiste last name, but like her last name was Telemac. So and had little apostrophes and stuff, so it was fancy. And then one day, like, I had like not a parent teacher conference, but it was like a thing that my mom came to at the school. It was like a yard sale that was holding, and she was a part of them, and my mom and her just clicked or whatever. And from there, my sisters had her as a teacher too, so I guess she probably felt inclined with my family or whatever. But then as I graduated high school, like she's still somebody that I have on Facebook and such. We haven't parted ways, but it was just somebody that I talked to here and there. But then when I graduated high school, that's when my mother would like tell me and my sisters like, hey, one of you guys, or if not all of you guys, are supposed to take after, you know, this. So I got to teach you guys more and more. So there were time frames where like my mom would take us to the beach early in the morning, and we would be wearing like clothes that we didn't need anymore. And then like you know, and I was really inclined, and I was always paying attention to what she was doing, what kind of herbs she was using, what kind of water she was using. And like when you go to the beach to cleanse yourself, it's a sense of it. Haitians normally do it around New Year's, right before New Year's, if not New Year's, right before or like Christmas, you know. And and it would be early in the morning, and I would be so afraid, like so afraid to do it, because like everybody's like watching. And then after a while, my mom would tell me, she would tell me while she's bathing me, like, don't worry about what people say, you know, this is a part of your culture, this is who you are, or whatever. And then after a while, I didn't care. And then now here I am, fast forward, I'm doing it for myself. I don't care who's watching, you know. Mhm. And then when I got to high school, it was a time frame where I noticed that I had a friend, and she was what do you call somebody who's basically in training to be a part of Santeria culture. Well, she had a bath and everything like that from somebody that she considers a godfather. You have a spiritual godfather and a regular. This was her spiritual godfather, and she would tell me that she would always come to school wearing all white, and she would tell me that the reason why is because she had got herself cleansed by a basically a high priest who's also her godfather. That person would end up being your godfather after you get cleansed. And once you get cleansed, it's like an official cleansing. It's more of like an initiation. And she would tell me that she would have to wear all white for a year because it's her being reborn again. And I know they do the same thing in Haiti. All of these things are connected, you know. They're all connected. It's just they all sound different, not sound different, but they all got different names, or the names sound pretty similar, you know. And like, you know, I just felt so drawn to her. Like I felt drawn to people like that. And, you know, she would tell me like, you know, are you getting about your path? But for me, I guess Western society makes Haitian spirituality sound like it is a bad omen, that it's a bad thing to be a part of. And I think that the media is a very powerful thing. So when you look up Haitian voodoo, you see different videos on YouTube about how this person so-called got turned into a cow, or how, you know, the world works on a balance. So I'm not saying that Haitian voodoo is all good, but it's not all bad either. You know, everything has a balance within it. Christianity has a good and a bad. Catholicism has a good and a bad, you know. And I think I was so stuck on the stereotypes of what Haitians put on Haitian voodoo that I never thought twice about, oh, let me do my research more. But when I was around this girl, she used to like, you know, she would have me around her, like her home and such like that. And we would just, you know, watch videos all day. And we would like, she would tell me about her path and such like that, and what she knows about, you know, Santeria. And I'd be like, this is really similar to Haitian voodoo. And she would tell me, like, I would ask her, like, did you ever feel hesitant to be a part because of what people say? And she was like, the good thing about the media is that's how you can research on certain things. And if you reach out to older people who's been a part of the game, you know, who's been a part of it for a long time, these people can teach you what's right and what's wrong, you know? So after a while, it was like, oh, you know, let me do my little research. And then I would, you know, me and my mom would sit and talk about it all day, and she'll talk about it with me. And she'll be like, you know, I know you're older now, so I can really explain a lot of this stuff to you or whatever. And then I got hooked from there because like my mom watched, she was like, okay, I'm going to have a client come over because she needs to have a bath because she feels like she has a lot of bad luck or whatever like that, she would make these little bags and put herbs in them and different kind of like whatever in them, and she would explain to me what they are and such. And she would definitely explain to me that this is not like some mumbo jumbo magic that you see Houdini do. Oh, wave my wand, and you know, everything works with an energy. We all are walking sources of energy. And it's funny how people who, my mother is about to be 50 this year in July 7th. So it's funny how she's 50, you know, and I'm 24. So in next year I'll be 25. So I'm half of what she is. And it's funny how even her age, they still see things as energy, no matter how old you are. It's energy. When people learn about energy, it's the same thing. And people would assume that people who are Caribbean don't know nothing about energy. And she'll explain it to me differently, but she'll basically tell me that the energy that you put onto something is what it manifests itself to be. So whenever she switches out her altar and she really focuses on calling certain ancestors, they feel that energy and they call back to her. Or if she's creating like a prosperity bag for somebody, I don't know if you ever heard of like mojo bags. I don't know if you ever, yeah, like mojo bags, how she'll have a few in her bag, or she'll probably give me one, or anybody that she knows or whatever like that. And she'll tell me like when she creates it, all she thinks about, for example, if it's prosperity, all she thinks about is money at the given time as she's doing it. And she'll make sure that the herbs are completely organic, that nobody with any kind of negative like touches them before her. And of course after she creates it, nobody touches them, period, unless if it's her, or if it's me, she wouldn't mind me touching because I'm her daughter. And of course she knows I have no bad intent or whatever. But what we think, like, I know it sounds very like simple, but literally when we think and we speak things, like our mouths is magic within itself. You know, what you say out your mouth will literally manifest itself. So can you imagine something as simple as your mouth? When you think about it, it comes into its own reality on its own. So that's what a part of spirituality really is, knowing the power of how you can use your mind and your outer body to create things that you want to have and such like that. And also another part of it is certain ancestors. Like I had my grandparents passed a period of about 5 to 6 years ago. And my mother has her mother on her altar. She also has her father on her altar. I have my mother, my father on my altar. I had an ancestral reading about 2 months ago from someone, and I had one about 2 weeks ago, because I normally like to get readings from 2 different people that I trust to make sure that I'm getting the right background of it, and to make sure that I know for sure that there's certain people, you know, that are around me, and I'll be sure for sure. So I don't want to have somebody on my altar that I think that's a part of my ancestry and they're not, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, they were telling me that there was one person told me that there was a man with a beard that's with me. There's a woman that resembles my mother, and I know who she is. That's my great aunt. It resembles my mother. So really, it's really more so my maternal side that follows behind, you know. And I think that's why pictures are so important to hold on to. You know, like every chance I get with my sons, I'm always taking a picture, and I have wads and wads and wads of pictures in my room of them, of me, you know, of my sisters and such like that. Because it's like, there's going to be a time where I'm not going to be here anymore, or there's going to be a time when they become parents, they're not going to be here. And I'm putting it into existence that I want them to understand spirituality, and I want them to understand what it means to be in tune with your spirit and working with your spirits themselves. And, you know, when there's a time where their kids got to put their parents on their altar, they have pictures. I don't have that many pictures of my ancestors. All I really have is my grandmother. If I knew their names, like I know their names. My mother, I've asked my mother their names and such, and she'll give me their names and whatever. But you know, it's so important to have them all there because you remember. And, you know, with everything that's going on right now with George Floyd and such, a lot of people are saying that we should reach back out to our ancestors and such like that. But we come from a race of people who don't know a lot of who our ancestors. Like I used to work for Ancestry.com. And like when these white folk, and I don't have an issue with white folks, of course, but whenever I listen to these white folks talk about their ancestors and I look at their charts on their accounts, and they pay big money to have these accounts all, you know, glamished out. They'll have 3,000 people on their charts dating back to the 1700s. And I'm like, man, I'd be lucky if I can find my cousin's cousin in Haiti and he probably still living. Like,
Yeah.
so like, you know, like, it'll be cool if I was able to find like my ancestry, but I don't. But it's so important for us to hold on to certain memories, hold on to pictures, tell your kids your stories and such like that. Tell your kids about who you are, what you practice. I don't know if you ever seen the Disney movie Coco.
Actually haven't yet.
No, you should watch that movie. So that movie is an epitome of representing your ancestors even when they're long gone. Hispanic people have this holiday where it's called Day of the Dead, where they visit their dead ancestors and they give them all kinds of, you know, whatever that they liked it when they were living, whether if it was cigars or whether if it was wine, you know, whatever. Now when you look at a lot of altars, a lot of them have like wine and liquors. Like a lot of, for example, I know there's different Haitian spirits that like wine or they like hard liquor. I know there's one specific Haitian spirit, he likes hard liquor and Haitian liquor. And in Haiti, you're supposed to put 20 peppers in it, and he likes to drink that. He's a very fiery, hot, angry spirit. He's not angry, but he's really stern, very, you know, he clearly 20 peppers and a hard liquor is clearly probably very like nasty, you know, but it's something that he likes, and he likes cigars. And you know, I think his name is Jean Petro. He's a fire loa, and he protects the people that come that embody him, the people that he watches over. And if you were to backstab the person that he embodies, he will he's just not about that life. He's the one that you don't want to mess with. You know,
Oh yeah.
you know, like when people have rituals and they embody him and such. When people have rituals and they embody him, that jar of liquor and them 20 peppers, like people rub it on themselves while they're under, you know, under that enchantment with that certain spirit. And it's said that if you ever were to embody him during a ritual where you embody him and he enchants you, it takes a long time to reach your consciousness, you know. So because he takes up a lot of energy to embody. So and his energy is very, very hot and fiery. Like he's up there. He's one of those spirits that he may not be talked about a lot, but he's one of those spirits. Or um, um, we can go to African spirituality, and we can go to Oshun, or we can go to Oya, or one of my personal favorites, Yamaya. And Yamaya, she embodies like emotion. She takes over the emotions of people. They call her basically the queen of the sea, and I guess Western society calls it serene, and Haitians, we call them les serines. So it's funny how all of this combines together. Somebody didn't make this up. Clearly, like when people be like, oh, I don't believe in that, I don't this and that, but why is it all of them sound the same? They just pronounce different, you know? So how is it something that you don't even want to see if it's something that's real, or if it's something that can at least be believable to you? Because it's really truth, you
Yeah.
know? Our ancestors took this from Africa and brought it over here so they can basically still be a part of their spirituality, but they made it seem as if they were practicing Christian religion, but they hid the faces were different. Everything was different, but it all was the same. They were still channeling that same energy regardless, you know? And but back to my journey, because I be digressing as I just did. So back to my journey. So back in college, being around this girl, you know, my mother would, whatever, that she would be that person that I would always go to her if I needed advice on something and such. And I do read a lot of books, you know, on it. And then it really struck me like it was always something that was in the front of my temple to think about my spirituality at a day-by-day basis. It was always, you know, I wake up in the morning. When I had my first apartment, I wake up in the morning, I would clean up my front porch with Florida water, beach water, you know, singing these humming these different like songs in the back of my head that represents different spirits and such like that, because some of them you call upon them with a certain song that they like, or a certain song that's made just for them, or you know, on certain days I wouldn't wear a certain color and such like that. I wouldn't go to sleep in black or all red. Sometimes, you know, you can, but there's just certain days when you can't do it. There's certain holidays for different spirits that you celebrate, and there were certain days where I would dedicate that day just for them, you know. And but then, you know, of course, around that time, that's when I met my now boyfriend, who's the father of my kids. And he would see this whole journey of mine, and he'll be like, I don't know what I got myself into, but he's somebody who is just as, I wouldn't say he's just as spiritual as me, but he's just as open, and that's enough. If you're open and willing to understand, then, you know, by all means, put your seatbelt on, and we gonna go for a ride, you know.
Yeah.
But I was still doing the same practices, you know. I was getting into Reiki a little bit with when I was pregnant and such. But then when we found out we were having my first son, I have never felt more of a challenge with my oldest than any other path that I've ever been a part of. But when I was pregnant with my first, I don't know what it was, and you know, I just felt like there were certain situations. I know last night we were talking about twin flames, or was it last night? I was reading something and I didn't even
Yeah, it was
and
yesterday.
and everybody was talking about twin flames and such like that and whatever. And I believe that me and my boyfriend, I believe that we are I believe we were twin flames and we transformed into soulmates, only because we dealt with situations while I was pregnant with my son that it made me realize that we were the yin and yang of each other. He was the opposite of me, I was the opposite of him, but at the same time we were one and the same, you know. And there were situations where it was just like most people would have been like, you know what, I couldn't deal with that situation, but it's like I had to deal with that situation with him for the sake of our generations past. Like, it sounds crazy, but there were situations that we went through together where it was something that happened prior before, and it's as if we had to combat it within our relationship for us to be able to move forward, you know. So and I feel like a lot of that, once we combated that, then that's when I felt so strong when it came to like visions. I began to feel certain people's energy, you know. But actually, no, I actually missed the part. While I was in college, I used to work at a crystal shop. So I used to meet all kinds of different people that would show me how to harness feeling people's auras and stuff. Because we all have a level of feeling somebody's aura. We just ignore it. You ever meet somebody that's new and you automatically get these different kind of feelings about that person? That's you testing out their aura. You're testing out their waters, you know? So when you listen to that and you focus on that, like you focus your psyche on it, you'll be surprised at what you can manifest off of that. So then fast forward, you know, when I was pregnant with my son, I had this thing where I would go to sleep and I would have these dreams of like the weirdest shit. And I'll be like, hold on, listen, why did I have a dream of that? And then 3 weeks later, it happens. Or I remember like when my son was like, then when my son was born, that was still there, because I used to always wonder, damn, when I give birth to my son, am I still gonna have these so I don't want to be cliche, but powers, Yeah. So I remember I went to school and my son was like 7 months, and I'm really connected to my kids because they were breastfed, for one, and for two, when you go through certain situations with your kids, you attach to them more. But I honestly feel like I went through those situations with my kids because they were I had to. I always talk about generational curses and generational wealth and everything generational that benefits, my kids and their kids and so on and so forth. But it's up to me to change that. And a lot of that is very spiritual. And I vowed to myself when I had my oldest that if I had any generational curses within my family, I had to dispel of them before he was born. And right when I said that, all these I done opened the Pandora's box. So then after he was born, he was, what is that? After he was born, he was, like I would go to school and I would just study certain people. And it's funny, every time I meet an instructor, they have some kind of spiritual background. Like, this was my aesthetics instructor. Like she would come to class smelling like mugwort, or she'll come to class smelling like Florida water or like dragon's blood. And I'll be like, I know this lady about that life. She just trying to act like it, but she trying to act like she normal. But and she would have these big round glasses like she Harry Potter, and she was Haitian like me. And like she would always be focused on me, and I'll be focused on her in class. And like I ended up being, again, a teacher's pet, the highest rate. My grades was really like good in her class, so I was one of the top students in her class, if not the only one. But she would like, me and her would like stay after class and we would just talk about anything and everything. And like she would help me like create these different type of elixirs, and she would show me that different things that she made. And she had 2-3 kids, and she would tell me like, yeah, you had these kids for a reason. Like these kids wasn't just because you had kids. Like these kids are, like, I call my kids like my walking like Lucky Charms. Like they just whenever I'm feeling down or whatever, they're just like I don't know how to describe it, but they just make me feel up again, So I remember there's a girl that walked in the class, and I remember I had this really bad headache, and she walked in this class, and I still know her now. And like, she was also another student that me and her, we just had really good grades and such. And she was talking to my teacher, and I asked her, and I said, do you have a lot of female ancestors that look like you or your mother or whatever? I think I asked her, do you look like your mother? And she was like, yeah. And then I asked her, like, do you have like a lot of females? Do you have like a lot of aunts, a lot of just women in your family? She was like, yeah. And then she was like, ours, like, well, they're with you right now. And she kind of pulled me aside, and she was like, like, how did I know that? And I was like, I just felt them, and I kind of seen them, and they kind of was harassing me a little bit in the back of my head. Like, it was like, oh, can you tell her we here? Like, so, then she was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to learn how to, learn how to speak with them and such like that. Now, I'm still a work in process. Like, I don't know how to speak with my, ancestors, but I do know that whenever I do any kind of rituals or whenever I call upon them, then I know that they can feel me and I can feel them, but I would like to have a conversation. Like, for example, when I was telling you I had an ancestral reading, I would love to be able to have a conversation with them right back, and they respond back to me. Like, I have, I think I was telling you the other day, like, I have a reader, and she's been my reader since I had my apartment. That was like 4 years ago, 2017 from now. And she was the one that, would let me know that this certain person is still with you, or that, you're still here. They're still here with you. They're the ones helping you walk into your path or whatever. And you know, I would tell the girl, like, you have to find somebody that specializes in ancestral readings and such. And she, you know, we would still go back and forth and stuff like that, but I would still help her with like different like herbs that she can use for this or such like that. And I actually had a past life reading, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, I attract to gold a lot. Like, it's funny how we still carry a piece of ourselves when it comes to our past life. And I realized that I attract to gold a lot. I love gold. If anything, most Black people just really love gold, you know? So I don't know, maybe the way it looks against my skin or whatever it is. I always joke around with my friends, and I'd be like, if something would have happened to me right now and you want to represent me on your altar, you better put gold on your I will be with you for the end of time. So she was telling me that my past life, well, it was 3 different women that I had reached out to. There was a woman by the name of Maria. I followed her on Facebook. I asked her about my past life, and she told me your past life has some kind of Egyptian background to it. Okay. Then the woman that I know for a very long time, since 2017, she told me that I asked her, can you do a past life reading for me? Because she normally does readings for me for the current time right now. And if whenever I'm off about something or off about someone, I'll ask her or whatever. So she was telling me, oh, your past life, I don't really do too much of past life, but it looks like your past life, you must have had some kind of royalty in your family. I was like, oh, don't gas me up now. Gas me. And she was like, no, there is royalty in your family, you know, whatever. And I said, okay. She was like, there's a man with you that has like almost similar to a Egyptian, she said like a headdress or like a necklace. And then there's another woman that I spoke to. Her name is Rhea. And she was telling me, I asked her too, because I didn't want her to gas me. Even though I trust her, I was like, don't gas me like that. You know, when you hear information like that, not everybody comes from a past life of royalty, you know? So I asked her, and she was like, yeah, your past life, there's a dark-skinned man with you with like a golden necklace. Like, you must have had some kind of, she specifically said you were some type of high, what do you call somebody with a high status in your past life? So probably sometime in Egypt, some kind of high status or whatever the case may be. And I was like, okay. And another woman a close friend of mine, it was her reader. And I was like, let me just test it out a little bit, because I was really like, please don't gas me. So she was like, there is a man with a necklace, a golden necklace. It has like a sun on it. He's dark skinned. He looks like he's of some kind of African descent, hence Egypt. I was like, okay, your girl is royalty. So you know, it made sense. So it's like I attract to Basset. It's a the Egyptian cat. You know, I have like a bookmark and this little hieroglyphic thing that says her name and such. And I attract to like black cats, Maine Coons. Like, you know, I love gold. Whenever I leave the house, I have to leave the house in like some kind of extravagant like way. I gotta come in a nice car, like, you know? Not to say, and I'm from Florida, so for us, like, to leave the house in like a lit way. Like, my boyfriend, he has like a Dodge Charger. Like, I don't really say this to him, so this is a secret, even though I know this is gonna come. But I don't, whenever we go somewhere and we going somewhere and I gotta look good, he gotta look good, but the car is a finishing touch. Like, he has a 2018 Dodge Charger, so we gotta come out the house looking. I gotta come out the house looking swagging, you know.
You know.
Yeah. So like, I gotta do my hair, and I have to be the one that. Not to say that I like to be the center of attention, but I have to be. If I walk through that door and everybody not staring, like, who is that? Oh, she looks nice. I ain't did something right. So I was like, you know, and I'm not a spoiled person, because I do come from a line of women who work for themselves. My mother's very independent, you know, but not to say that I'm spoiled, but I do like nice things. So whenever I go purchase something for myself, if it ain't it, if it's even a small tweak of something that I don't like about it, like, I'm gonna continue to look for it. I'm gonna complain until I find exactly what I want in life, you know. So I was like, it's crazy, and I'm still digging into it because I would like to know multiple past lives. But it's nice to know that my most recent was a level of royalty or whatever. So that was pretty cool, you know. So I suggest everybody to look into their past life, because me looking into my past life made me understand why I am the person that I am, and why I you know, why I am the way that I am. And you know, a lot of these readings, they would tell me like, oh, you know, you had family in your bloodline that practiced. So it really is literally the veins that course through me, the blood that courses through my veins, that I have some kind of royalty, that I have some kind of spiritual background that's literally in my bloodline. It's not just because I'm Haitian, but it's because it's in my bloodline. And not even just because I'm Haitian, but because I'm of African descent. I'm African. My people came here for how many years ago? What, a couple thousand years ago. Now here I am today. Modern people most recently was in Haiti, and now here I am now. My son, my boyfriend, he's Haitian. My kids, so they Haitian. They just born here. I'm born here. My boyfriend's born here. But I instill culture into them so much, you know, because culture has a lot to do with spirit, you know. If I didn't have my culture, what would spirituality be? You know, that's why I see a lot of people argue, but that's another conversation. But I see people argue on Facebook or like Instagram, and then like, for example, like I seen this one white lady, I guess she was like a fraud or something like that, and she was explaining this way to do this really like ritual that every Caribbean should know, and she was explaining it horribly, and she was explaining it to this group that has mostly white women in it, and they just went down her throat, and it was like, oh, you guys don't have a culture. And I was like, oh Lord have mercy. Like I try to stay away from the white and black thing, but at the same time, because of my spirit, it's just like I can't stay away. So the protests for Trayvon Martin, the going into city hall meetings, educating students in college, you know, because I was a part of different groups in college and such like that. You know, so I have it's in me, you know, to talk about my culture and to brag about my culture, because everywhere we look, we're not being bragged about. We're seen as a threat, or we're seen as something that's too strong, and we gotta be toned down a little bit or whatever. And we're constantly being threatened. We're constantly being hurt. We're constantly being called stupid, or we can't do something or whatever. So I brag every chance I get. You know, I brag. I teach. Every year, like Haitian Day, for example, every year I sit and watch a documentary with my boyfriend. Now my kids, we sit and we watch documentaries, you know, and whether if it's in the morning or whether if it's at night, whatever kind of day it is, but we always sit down and we try to watch what it is, because it's who we are. And there's going to be a time where when my kids grow older, you know, like they have to be the ones to tell their kids. And that kind of story is not the story that you find in history books. The story of how Haitians really gained their independence. I remember my mother used to tell me about it when I was younger. Like, I know people say in the history books that Haiti gained its independence by, no, it wouldn't even say, it would just say Haiti gained its independence by 1804, then it moves on to the next whatever. I remember textbooks would literally give you a small paragraph, maybe about 3 sentences, you know, and then she'll tell me like Haitians won their independence by voodoo. That's how they won their independence. And I'll be like, what she mean? Is she'll give me all the stories, all the teas on everything. Like, you know, there was a ritual that they did, and, you know, white slave masters thought that we were just dancing around in their backyard, but really the shit was about to go down. Like, you know. They sacrificing pigs, and they did this in the alligator alley because they knew that white folks would not deal with alligators. And that lets you know right there, if a whole bunch of black people can be in a swamp full of gators, nobody got their ass snagged. That tells you that we are very in tune with nature. You know, I don't know what happened down the line, but I guess we getting there. But that tells you that we're extremely in tune with nature to be sitting in the swamp, because I think my mother told me the reason why is because that a lot of nobody was gonna sit there and be in a swamp with a whole bunch of alligators. Like white slave masters, none of them was gonna be in a swamp with alligators. They're gonna get ate, you know. But she would tell me that they had this ritual, and this ritual was basically to give them the strength of being able to fight. A lot of people say, oh no, well, it gave them, the ritual was basically selling their souls to the devil, blah blah blah. There's no such thing as a devil to me. To me, there's no such thing as a thing with horns, with horned ears, well, not ears, but antlers, with an arrow tail. No such thing. But there is such thing to getting into that negative mentality, the devil's mentality. Yeah. When you become so low, rock bottom, where you reach a level of jealousy, where you reach a level of being a liar, or where you reach a level of being envious, that's devil mentality. So if you want to put a name on being negative and positive, negative being the devil, heaven being positive, you know. So that's what, for me, that's my instance, because I don't believe that there's somebody with a horn jolly around, you know, holding my hand like, oh, let's burn down this building. That's the mentality that you reach once you reach your lowest, you know. But once you begin to enlighten yourself and you reach a level of peace, that's when you reach that level of, oh, you know, the level of enlightenment, the level of peace, you know. But yeah, my mother would just be like, we didn't sell our souls. It was more so just to give me the strength to fight no matter what, even if it's for the death. Because everybody has a level of being afraid of death. But they say you reach true enlightenment when you're not afraid of death. Because when you're not afraid of death, that's just you know that you're transitioning yourself over to becoming enlightened. You feel me?
Yeah.
So you know that your level, that your path doesn't finish there, that you know that you reach another path. Just like I was just talking about my past life. You know, at this point, if I were to pass away right now, this would be my past life, and then I would go on into a new life. So she would tell me, like, if you look at the wars that was fought with Haitians and the French and the British, Haiti still stands now to be the only country to defeat the French, the British, and the English. And the French, the Spaniards, and the English. And we still are paying for it till this day, not only financially, geographically, mentally, physically, in every sense you can possibly imagine. There's so much corrupt and so much, you know, there's a lot of stealing and such like that. That's the reason why we're still being, a lot of people don't know, because y'all so no. Because we had to deal with, we were the only ones that decided to stood up and fight. That's a lot of reasons as to why a lot of countries didn't stand up and fight, because they noticed how I don't want to say the word poor, but how malnourished we became over time as a people, you know. So when my mother will tell me about these stories, if a country is going to defeat all three countries, you know, and then they end up having their independence for a period of time, and they had their own crops and they had their own money, and they were helping other countries get out of slavery. They were helping other countries reach empowerment, you know. Think about it. Of course, you would end up being one of the poorest countries 300 years later, because one, we were doing a lot of helping, and two, out of fear, Western civilization, I'm just going to say Western civilization, feared that we would rise up again. And if you look at the stories of how, you know, I think I was telling you how they used to poison the whales of the Caucasian household in this during the times of slavery, how they would put certain herbs that would poison them, or how they would crush glass. They would crush glass into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces, almost like sand. And they would make them drink it little by little, put it in their food little by little, and then they shitting out their ass blood, they vomiting blood, and you wonder how did that happen, like, you know, and they pass away. you know, or like they would I know we always talk about how Jamaicans had a maroon and Haitians had a maroon community. Haitians had a community of Tainos up in the mountains. Haiti is derivative as the word. It means mountains, land of mountains. When you in Indian language, or is it, I don't know. I gotta look that up. I forgot. Is it Indian language or is it? It can't be Spanish. Is it Spanish?
I don't know actually.
I gotta think. I know it's translated into something, but there was a time where, you know, Indians dropped off not Indians, but Haitians, when they ran away from the plantations. There was specifically two, and I call them the modern day Bonnie and Clyde. Haitians, Bonnie and Clyde, you know, because they literally were married together. They were married, and they would capture slaves in Haiti, and they would tell them, almost similar to what Harriet Tubman did, if you run back now, I'm gonna have to kill you because you're gonna jeopardize all of us. She would call the shots, you know, but they would go to every plantation and they would take these people out the plantations. They would burn down the plantations with people in them, with the white folks in them, you know, and they would take them up to the mountains, but eventually they got caught, you know, and she was supposed to be killed by gunshots, while her husband was supposed to be killed by the slaughtering. They were going to cut his head, but she was like, no, you're not going to cut my head. No, she was like, you're not going to shoot me, you're going to cut my head just like you're going to do him or whatever. And so she was telling them, like, you're gonna cut me. Like, she's telling them how they're gonna cut. Like, she didn't care. Like, this ritual really made these people stronger than ever. Like, you couldn't touch me. I don't care what you do. Death is not gonna hurt me. Death is not gonna, you know. And then the thing is, the strength was already there. What do you expect coming from the Atlantic slave trade? A lot of them fell over the they jumped out of the boat. What did the dude from Black Panther say? They knew that death was better than bondage, you know. So because death was better than bondage in the spiritual sense, because I knew I'm gonna come back again. And speaking of come back again, like, there was another Haitian revolutionary where they cut his head off and they mutilated him. And before he died, they asked him, like, they were making fun of him, and he said that I'm gonna come back as a mosquito. When I tell you, I died laughing. I died laughing when I was watching it. And I was like, what? And he was like, I'm gonna come back as a mosquito. And they're laughing at him, slit his throat, whatever, throw him, slice his head off, put him on a stake, and put a message saying, if you ever try, whatever. I forgot what he was doing, but he was doing like a lot of like sneaky stuff where people caught up to him. And then he said, I'm gonna come back as a mosquito. Was this Dutty? I gotta look it up again if it was Dutty Buckman or not. But he said he's gonna come back as a mosquito, and then he sure did came back as a mosquito. You know, so what he did is that malaria came about Haiti during the 1700s. Malaria came in Haiti, and it didn't touch any slaves. It didn't touch any black people. It didn't touch anybody with color for some reason. It killed off any and every white person that was there. Every person died of malaria at that given time. The symptoms that was described within those books back in the day, it was malaria. So literally after he died, that man came back with his mosquito gang and killed everybody, you know? So, so, you know, and it sounds crazy, but it's like, that's proof in the pudding right there. Even though it sounds funny, like, you can come back as mosquitoes. It's funny how he knew that he was going to come back, but he had a spiritual background to his part in the revolution. So that's why he kind of knew that he was going to come back to how he was going to come back as. But that the culture of it all goes to tell you, what if all of that never happened? What would spirituality mean to people of color now? If none of that ever happened, what would it mean to all of us now? You know, so I tie spirituality and culture together because you cannot have one without the other. When you have culture but no spirituality, what are you doing it all for? When you pass away, it's just going to be something that's going to be in the textbooks. But to pass it on within spirit and within blood, that's something that's going to live forever, you know. And then, you know, then the other way around, as I was describing before, So it's like I tie them both together. So at present day and now, um, oh, I think I was on my first son. See, I have a habit of digressing. I think I was on my first child, my first boy. His name is Cairo, which Cairo means modern day Egypt. It's a city in Egypt. Cairo means destruction. It means victorious is what Cairo means. So my name means goddess of the moon. So I always felt like people should name their kids with some kind of meaning behind it. I don't want to just, oh, your name's going to be Tim. So it don't mean nothing. But, you know, even I think you should even look up your name. I think Brandon actually means something. Oh, I'm looking at a ladybug. It's so cute.
Oh,
That
no.
means something. But it just flew over here. That's rare. I haven't seen a ladybug in so long.
Mm.
But it's so big too. It's not really big, but I noticed it from here. But my second son means Kamari, and Kamari means um the moon and the stars. So you know, I kind of felt connected to him when I was pregnant because he didn't really give me any problems. No, he did actually. He was very I was very stubborn with him, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna be the little male version of me, apparently." So he was stubborn. He was, you know, he was just everywhere. Like my emotions were everywhere. But yeah. So my second gave me the ability to like hear more clearly, like to hear my conscience more clearly, to hear those around me more clearly. My senses just heightened, like, you know. So I feel like you reach levels of your life and your spirit where you become more inclined with what's around you. And every lesson that you learn in your life, we're all born. That is a massive iguana. We're all born. I'm looking at an iguana on a tree. We're all born with paths that we come about. Like when you realize you're going through depression or you're going through you know, you have a lot of anxiety going on. A lot of people don't realize they're about to embark on a pathway that nobody would understand unless they're on that path themselves. You know, so there was a time where I went through a period of depression, a period of where I was really anxious. I would overthink things and such like that. And then that's when my kids came along, and then that's when, you know, I met people who had the same background as myself, you know. So, you know, everybody has their own path. Don't give up just because you may see somebody else reach that level of enlightenment. You're like, oh, I want to be just like that. There's plans out there for you that may be even better. And if you're ever confused about your spiritual path, or you ever feel like, you know, you ever feel like, um, some people will tell me that they feel like they feel guilty or something like that because they feel like God is the power of all things and such. And I'll be like, that's exactly true. Nobody ever told you that he wasn't,
Mm.
you know. And I don't believe that God is a man or a woman. I believe that he is a supreme, I keep saying he, but it is a supreme energy that we all carry and embody. If you look at every single Bible from around the world, the very first couple paragraphs, it says that we are God's children. And we very much so are. We're all just dealing with an experience. And along the way, we'll have a few angels here, and we'll have a few spirits there, and a few ancestors there along our paths. You know, everybody has their own path and everybody has their own route, you know. And people who feel guilty about feeling like maybe they're not practicing in God's way, or maybe a lot of spiritual practice also too, how saying how people feel like Haitian spirituality is the devil's work, or they have a misconception about it. A lot of people who believe in this background, they know to practice, they cannot do any kind of work without God's approval. You know, like for example, I have people who tell me, like my mom's friends or my mom herself, she'll tell me when she has work that she has to do, she has to so-called sleep on it. Like, you ever hear the phrase that somebody say, I gotta sleep on it? Like,
Oh
literally,
yeah.
like, yeah, literally, she literally has to sleep. Somebody comes to her and tells her, oh, well, I have to do this for this certain purposes. She'll be like, all right, I'll let you know if I can do it or not. I'll let you know, whatever. So you know, she'll probably have a yes or no within her dreams, or she'll probably randomly be cleaning chicken and then she called a person and be like, I can't do it, I'm sorry. So you know, and whenever she does, watching her practice her work, or my friend in college that I was telling you about, you know, I'll watch her they always start prayer with God. They talk about God and how, you know, we ask you to help us, you know, so a lot of people have a misconception, but research is everything. Like, we have the ability to research and look at different cultures and look at different ways of doing things, but just by cranking a book open. But the best research is an elder. The best research is somebody who's been in the game for a very long time, you know, because the internet can lie, the media can lie, or somebody, you can easily go into Wikipedia and edit what they put on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always say that if you know an older person that you know, that's about their life, and don't be afraid to attach to older people because they've been here longer before you, they've had more experiences before you, you know, and especially if they have a spiritual, like, you know, background, you might want to learn from them if they want to teach you, because they have to be the ones to actually say, yeah, I'll teach you, you know, because some of them don't. Some of them, either they A, stingy, or B, they probably just don't see it in you or whatever, or they probably don't think you're ready or whatever. But yeah, like, the people of yesterday are the ones that can teach us. And I'm glad to be able to know that I'm the third of my generation, from what I know, that I can have my mother teach me. And when it's time for me to teach my kids, and I won't force it on my kids, that's another thing. Because I find that a lot of Black families have a tendency to force Christianity on their kids, or force whatever religion on their kids. But let your children walk the path that they were supposed to walk. It's their life. My kid is not obligated to me. So once they came out, whatever they choose to do, that's their path, and I don't have any control over that, you know, and I don't want to control that. So if they choose to go down that path, okay. Because when I was in high school, I remember, not to say that Christians are bad, like I said, everybody has their own path. I remember in high school where I used to sit down, and I used to go through a lot in high school with, like, you know, dumb boy issues, whatever, just feeling different out of everybody. And I used to crank the Bible open thinking that was going to help me. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel attached. I didn't feel, you know, like that sense of, you know, when people talk about how they feel a sense of peace, and I just don't, you know, not to say that the Bible is a bad thing, because the Bible is being used all around the world and from people that aren't Christian. So,
Yeah.
you know, so, you know, funny thing is, I still own a Bible. And it's one of the most, I'm not going to say it's one of the most holy books, because if it was, y'all shouldn't be changing the text in there, but that's for another, you know, the dude that's listed on the side, King James, who was that? You know, because I did a little research and I was like, that man ain't holy. but yeah, like, everybody has their own path, and my children, one of them is looking at me right now in the window like I want to come outside. But you know, let your children pick their path. If you want to show them a few things, like my mother didn't really force it upon me, you know, she just wanted to see if I would gravitate to her, and as time progressed, I did, you know. So yeah, you got any questions for me? I don't even think I let you ask any questions. Like,
Oh no, it's like, yeah, that was good. I like the law of oneness, and how we all are technically all together, and we're just like sources of energy.
Yeah, we are. All of us are connected. all of us, even like, for example, if I throw a piece of garbage on the floor, like a can of soda on the floor, and then a homeless person picks it up and turns it into, you know, the scrap metal places, like they turn into there, and then the person who found that piece of trash, they got to transform that piece of trash into something that we need metal for, and then that piece of metal, whatever, maybe a refrigerator, because I think refrigerators are metal, refrigerator, then now here this is somebody's house, they're using it as a refrigerator, like literally, like there's we all, just to use that, that's a silly example, but just to use that, like we all have a level of connection there, like we all are connected, whether if we know it or not, you know.
Yeah.
Even if it's this.
Yeah, definitely.
Embark on your level of like spirituality.
My level of spirituality. Oh yeah, so I started throughout my like journey. I knew like information, but I never really like kind of got really into it. But then like in April of 2019, that's when like I can say one of my like YouTubers that I've been watching had like a spiritual awakening also, that kind of like um made me aware of, oh, I should try this out. And then I kind of like did some research, and then July of 2019, that's when I like officially like practice all the stuff and like sun gaze and everything.
Okay. So like, did you like, does your family come from like a certain background, or?
Not really. I think I'm like the black sheep of my family, so um I don't think um my family is mostly like religious, so that's why I had to break out of it and then like just be on my journey instead.
Okay. What is your background?
African American, Caucasian, and Indian.
Wow. So have you ever decided to do like a test, like to see, you know, your specific background itself?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I know I had like some meditations where like I knew like a few of my past lives, and yeah, they kind of taught me a lot.
So it's like myself, how it kind of like made you understand why you are the way you are and such like that.
Yeah, definitely like what I do, how I say like stuff and everything.
That's good. So how did you end up like, what are some examples? Like, do you know what your past life was?
Um, I knew three of my past lives. So one of them was I was a goddess in Egypt, which was Basset, which was like the cat type, which was like the protector of Amun-Ra and all the Egyptians. And then that was one, and then the other one was um I w- I was in Egypt again, and then I had like this like big church, but I was teaching like spirituality stuff. So
Wow.
but then like the Matrix type like came in and then like burned it down. So then I kind of like went back to like relying on the Matrix. So that's why I feel like I reincarnated. And then another one, it was Apollo from Greece. So yeah, those are
That's
some
pretty
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
So That's really cool. I have to do more digging with my past life, because I want to know if I was like a man at one point, because I do have a few friends where they were men in their past lives, and I was just like, yo, like I would love to know what I looked like too, but can't do that. But I don't know if it's possible, but I don't know if I can have somebody tell me if they can figure what I look like, but that would be some high status there to be able to find that out. But that's pretty cool. That's really cool. So you feel like do you feel like you already know your purpose?
Yeah, I kind of knew like about like I would say like a month or two ago when I kind of like started to like make like videos and music and everything. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like my like life's purpose or like mission was to come back downhill and like raise the frequency, vibration, and energy of the planet so it can help evolve everyone else. So just to be like an asset for people to
Mm-hmm.
move them into the next consciousness shift.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. You said you had your YouTube page. So your YouTube page talks more about this. So I gotta do some digging on your page. It's on your page, right?
Yeah, it's I have like 4 channels, but mostly I for the spirituality stuff it's Brandon Bass 99.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you were born in.
I was born here in Massachusetts.
Okay. No, the year.
Oh, 1999.
Oh, okay. Oh, 999. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, is there anything else you want to ask me, or?
um I don't think so unless you have anything else to say to like anyone watching.
Um, all I can really say, I could just repeat the last part again. If you ever feel like you feel lost in your spiritual path, or if you feel like you're wondering why is your path a little bit slower than everybody else's, or everybody has their own path and everybody has their own route, and gifts take time to develop. It takes time to develop. Even I'm still understanding my gifts and such. I'm still learning how to channel certain energies to certain things. And even though I have a mother to teach me, somebody who's been there, done that, you know still it's still something that she's gonna teach me, but it's some things that I would have to bring forth on my own.
Mm,
And yeah, just enjoy the path too. Like once you realize, like what helped me a lot when I was like in my little level of depression, what helped a lot was understanding that constantly repeating to myself that this isn't the end. Like this isn't this is just a side effect. Constantly repeating that this is a side effect to a new level of enlightenment, because you're always reaching levels. You always at a different level. I was at a level of not knowing, not interested. Then there was a level of curiosity, and then there was a level of learning, and then so on and so forth. So just enjoy the path now. And whenever you reach certain levels of your life where you feel discouraged, or where you feel um just a little too surprised, or even like freaked out, like weirded out, because there are times where I was just weirded out, with certain people's feelings and understanding how they feel and such. When you reach that certain level, like, like it may be weird, but it's like it's for the long run. And imagine when you're like older, like you old wrinkled, and you just already know how to master a lot of these things. When I meet people that's like in the game for like 19 years, 20 years, it's like, God, can you imagine the path? The first 3 years, first 5 years, then you hit 10 years, like, so enjoy the path and be happy that you're able to even reach that level as long as you're above the level of not being interested or not knowing, once you've reached above that level, you can reach the highest level, you know, you possibly can. That highest level is, you know, that level of complete enlightenment, you know. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Have a good rest of your day too.
You too.
Oh yeah. See.